A drug is a chemical substance that has known biological effects on humans. Drug addiction is a chronic, often relapsing brain disease that causes compulsive drug seeking and use despite harmful consequences to the addicted individual and to those around him or her. If I consume a drug, I could stop whenever I want. Many people believe it, but it is not true. When you start consuming a drug, you do it very frequently and you could not stop because your body will need more and more so it can become dependent of it. Drugs contain chemicals that tap into the brain's communication system and disrupt the way nerve cells normally send, receive, and process information. Some drugs, as marijuana and heroin, have a similar structure to chemical messengers called neurotransmitters, which are naturally produced by the brain. This similarity allows the drugs to fool the brain's receptors and activate nerve cells to send abnormal messages. One type of drug is psychoactive drug. These type of drugs are chemical substances that change brain function and results in alterations in perception, mood, consciousness, and behavior. One example of psychoactive drug is methadone. Origin: methadone is a synthetic opioid, was first synthesized in 1939 at the pharmaceutical laboratories of the IG Farben concern. Due to the huge number of compounds discovered in 1939, started pharmacological tests with methadone only in early 1942. Symptoms: slowed or troubled breathing, drowsiness, dry mouth, impaired concentration, facial flushing, irregular heartbeat, urinary retention, tremors, unstable gait, weakness, possible fainting, and seizures. During development, some brain cells, including oligodendrocytes, express opioid receptors that bind opioid drugs such as methadone. Oligodendrocytes are involved in multiple complex functions critical to normal brain development, including production of myelin, a substance that enables neurons to send electrical signals and communicate with other cells. Treatments: detoxification in a rehabilitation center. The treatment could be faster or slower depending upon the attitude of the patient. Good evening. Today we are going to talk about drugs and methadone. We have a special guest named Ricardo Jimenez.
Good evening. Psychoactive substances are chemical substances, and more generally they are produced synthetically in laboratories, and these psychoactive substances are usually called drugs, and perhaps we know them as street drugs. So those are substances that people tend to use, and they have impact in your body. They change your behavior, they also change your mood and your consciousness. So somehow these psychoactive substances affect your nervous system or your neurological system. I can tell you that in Colombia, currently, we have the Colombian Drug Observatory, which sits under the Ministry of Justice, and we also have the National Policy for Consumption Reduction of these illegal substances, or the so-called psychoactive drugs. For instance, there have been 3 studies quite recently, one in 1992, the other one in 1996, and the most recent in 2008. And according to a recent study in 2011 that was conducted in a population of youngsters of high school, and this study establishes that, for instance, between 5 to 30% of these youngsters have the perception that it's quite easy to obtain psychoactive substances. Also, this study says that 7% of this population in Colombia have access or have consumed marijuana. 3% of these youngsters have consumed cocaine, and between 1 to 1.2% have consumed ecstasies. And I think that the use of these psychoactive substances can affect their social life in many ways. For instance, it can cause isolation among young people because it certainly, the consumption of these substances certainly affects your mood and your behavior. And therefore, I believe that the people who use these drugs, they will tend to be, to feel excluded from society. It can also divert some of the goals that people have. So let's say, you know, it can divert you from accessing university or other goals that you may have in life. It can, as I was saying, it can exclude yourself from acting or being along your fellows or your friends, and therefore it can definitely impact your social life because you will feel that you are not part of others. It can even of course, it can affect your health, and therefore it can withdraw you from many activities that you can perform with your friends. Methadone was, it's an opioid medication which was developed or created in Germany in the late 1930s. And it's a medication that has had some type of evolution in the drug industry, if you can call it. It was used at some point for coughing purposes, but it wasn't successful for that. And then it has had some therapeutic purposes, and so it is used today as a medication that somehow helps people who are withdrawing from the consumption of heroin, and so it can help people withdrawing from that addiction. But it also has those secondary effects that it can also become, or a person can also become addictive to this type of drug, and it can also cause overdose, as many other type of drugs, and even death. Well, as many other type of psychoactive substances, this drug, if you don't use it properly, can cause specifically damages to your breathing system. So even if you use it for therapeutical purposes, it's not recommended for the use of people who have suffer asthma, as myself, for instance. It of course has some effects on your breathing system, but also on your nervous system, and it can also impact your brain and your consciousness and your mood. I think that my main advice is that young people really have to have a solid education at home, so principles and values have to be transferred into them. I also think that your faith has a lot to do with it because it provides you with the background and principles in order to fight all the obstacles that we have in life, and even those, if we can call them, temptations that we all face when we're young. So definitely those two things, I think your inner faith, your religious values, and as well as your educational values that are infused, that are cultivated at home with your parents and your siblings.
Thank you very much for your point of views.
Thank you.
Our second guest is Sebastián Lopez.
Good evening. So, well, I think drugs are very dangerous to the human body as they have a serious effect in your brain as they make you feel tired, make you feel dizzy, make you feel you are in another world. You are feeling very bad. Well, I think drugs affect in social life of young people as these ones doesn't know at what moment to stop consuming these drugs, so they get overdosed and they don't know what they are doing after they are in the effects of whatever drug. And also the people that consume these drugs start becoming antisocial and they have antisocial conducts. So they feel a part of the others and they just want to be with them and drugs. And in my case, in sports, drugs doesn't let you give your maximum effort and reach your 100% potential. Methadone is an opioid medication, or it can also be considered a narcotic medication, and it is used to reduce the withdrawal symptoms in people addicted to heroin or other narcotic drugs without causing the high associated with drug addiction. Also, it is used as pain reliever and detoxification. Um, Bad effects that this drug can cause are the slow of your breathing, or in other cases, the change of the heart rhythm.
Thank you for your points of view.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Actually, drugs and their influence in our society are a very important fact to be considered. We must know about drugs, not only their uses but also their harmful consequences.